Well, it's the Clash of the Titans on Tuesday night as Middlesbrough host Coventry City at the Riverside Stadium. Two teams going really well so far this season. Today, I'm joined by Tyler, the Coventry fan. Tyler, how are you doing, mate?
I'm good, thanks, mate. Cheers for having me on.
Thanks for coming on, mate. Welcome back to Full Time Fever. We're on a mission to become the home of Championship football on YouTube. If you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed yet, then please feel free to do so you don't miss Championship content throughout the season. And our socials will be linked down below. But today, Tyler, our focus is purely on Middlesbrough versus Coventry. And I'll start with you. Coventry have made an absolute flying start to the season. Sat top of the league. You know, no one's really close to you. What has been, for you, the biggest improvement on last season? Because last season wasn't too bad. Frank Lampard turned it around from the quite poor start. But what really has turned you into proper title-winning favourites this season for you?
Well, you mentioned about the poor start, and I think that's a big factor in that. I mean, the last few years really we've been very slow off the mark, and 10 wins in our first 15. I think that is the start we needed to make. But I think on the whole, it just feels like we've sort of gone up a gear in every department, whether it's defensively, ruthlessness in front of goal. Everything just feels like we've stepped it up to that next level, and that has really shown on the pitch.
You're scoring more goals, you're conceding less goals. Every player feels like he's getting plaudits every week. Just so you know, we are filming this before the games at the weekend, so before the West Brom game and before Oxford, purely because it's a midweek fixture, so it'd be difficult to get this out on time. But it wouldn't surprise me if Coventry get a result against West Brom. So everything we talk about is still going to matter. Recent Boro versus Coventry history. Tyler, what can you remember from those playoff legs? So, don't know if you can remember, but we actually played you the last game of the season. I believe it was 0-0 at the Riverside. I went to that one, but I didn't get to go to the playoff games. Boro didn't score a single goal in any of those three games, which just sums up Boro's form against Cov. Yeah, what can you remember from those legs? Did you go to them?
Yes, so I was actually there for the last league game of the season, and then both playoff legs. So it was quite a bizarre situation where we were coming up to play at the Riverside twice within about 10 days, I think it was. I mean, the playoffs itself, I remember it was quite cagey. There wasn't really a lot in both legs. There wasn't flurries of chances. It wasn't sort of looking like it was going to be a goal fest. And in the end, it was Gus Hamer, wasn't it? With quite a special finish. And I think in a game like that, it was that sort of goal that was going to win the game.
So, that ended, of course, in jubilation for the Cov fans. But then the next game, I have to ask about it, Tyler. Luton at Wembley. Did you go to that?
I did, unfortunately.
Yeah. Heartbreaking stuff. I mean, what I liked about it is the fact that it was Rob Edwards. And so if he was still Middlesbrough manager, I'd be feeling quite confident because he knows how to get one past you. But sum up that day at Wembley, just, the start, how nervous did you feel before that game?
I mean, it was one of them games where us and Luton, it kind of felt like an underdog story, regardless of who went up, just based on the other teams that were in around the playoffs. But we knew that, because we've always struggled against Luton. Luton were never a side we did particularly well against. I think in recent years they've beaten us 5-0. There's been some horrible results like that. And in terms of the actual final, I mean, we were pretty awful, to be honest, up until we managed to claw ourselves back into the game. I mean, we comfortably could have been 3-4 down in the first half alone. But I mean, in the end, penalty shootout, you can't make it up. So there we are.
Of course. Well, that was a Mark Robins team. That leads me on to the next question. What do you think the biggest difference is between a Mark Robins team and the Frank Lampard team you're used to seeing now?
I mean, there's definitely difference in the way we play. I think Robins used to maybe sort of look at, can we get into half time 0-0, and then push on, maybe snatch it by 1 or 2. But it feels like Lampard gives the players the freedom. I mean, we've seen it on so many occasions this season, scoring 5, 7 in a game. The job's never done until the final whistle goes. And, even if we're 2 or 3 up, it still feels like we're pushing as if the game is 0-0. And also, it just feels like we have a bit more defensive stability, which was definitely, a weakness under Robbins. It didn't matter who we played. It felt like there was always something that could go wrong at the back, but it feels like Lampard's really tightened that up.
Okay. And it's actually just come out today that Mark Robbins has signed a new contract at Stoke. I'm not sure if you've seen that or not. Just while we're talking about Robbins, I'll ask you, are you surprised to see how well he's doing with Stoke or not at all?
I think, obviously, when he came in last year, I mean, that was a big ask to do well, because I know that Stoke side was struggling. It has been for a few years. But I did always think if he had the backing, if he, could bring in the players he wanted to, he would exceed. And I think that's proof this year of, he is a brilliant manager at this level. Bringing players in like Sorba Thomas, for example, who we haven't actually seen for a few years, probably since his Huddersfield days when they were in the Championship. And it just shows that he still has it at this level.
Yeah. I agree. I think he's brilliant. I've absolutely taken him at Boro in the summer. Right, let's turn our attention more to Tuesday night, under the lights at the Riverside. Who do you think Boro should be looking out for? Who is the danger man? Who's in red hot form right now that you think could be the difference maker on Tuesday night?
Well, I think a couple of players. Well, you could highlight quite a few, I think, but I'll highlight a couple. One, Brandon Thomas Asante. Top scorer in the division. Well, I think he's actually level now with Carlton Morris, but he's just got that rich vein of form in front of goal at the moment. He's a completely different player to the player from last season, and it's going to take a lot, I think, to keep someone like him out at the moment. Another player that I think you've got to point out as well is Bobby Thomas. I mean, it's not just his defensive ability at the moment, but when we have the long throw, we have corners. He is a massive threat at the other end of the pitch, and I think he's the sort of player that I fear if we don't go up, a few Premier League clubs could come sniffing around next summer.
Okay. Well, I believe Boro going into this game with the second or third defence in the league. So from my point of view, I'd hope that we have enough to try and limit you to maybe at least one or maximum 2 goals, because you've been completely free scoring. I mean, Victor Torp coming up with goals from midfield. I think he's got, how many has he got? 4, 5, 6? He's really, really good at the moment. No defenders chipping in with goals and assists. So yeah, you're finding ways to score, which is what I really like about your team under Frank Lampard at the moment. From a Boro perspective, Tyler, I'll be honest, I'm not sure what on earth to expect. At the time of recording, we still don't have a manager. Heavily linked with Kim Hellberg coming over from Hammarby in Sweden. But it's going to be AD Vivesh, I believe, our assistant manager, who, of course, was at Coventry. So if there's ever one man to come in and help us out to finally beat you, it will probably be AD. So hopefully he can work his magic. We have a few injury issues. I think Dale Fries might be a bit of a doubt at the back. He's been our best defender this season, so that would massively play into your hands. Other than that, I think Boro just quite opposite. We've struggled scoring goals. Tommy Conway's only got 2 in the league. And pre-season predictions, I would have had him up there in terms of golden boot shouts. And quite a few new signings. That's actually something else about Cov. You didn't make too many changes in the summer, did you, in terms of personnel? So maybe that's helped you out. You've continued your momentum from last year. And I think Boro are struggling to do that at the moment. Opposition thoughts, Tyler. I want to get your thoughts on Boro so far this season. Recently, it's been all about Rob Edwards. But in terms of the actual football, what have you seen so far that you've either been impressed with, or you think Coventry could really, take control of in the game?
Well, I'm not sure how much it will play into our hands. But obviously, you look at the recent form between the two clubs, and we've had quite the upper hand, really, for the last few years. I think you got to go back to 4 years ago when you beat us. I think so. But no, I mean, you've had a brilliant start to the season. I don't think anyone can doubt that. I don't know what your opinion is. I'll ask that in a minute. But I suppose being in and around the top two was something that you maybe didn't expect come the start of the season. Maybe a strong top six could have been on the cards, but I suppose this might be almost something you didn't expect, especially with the managerial change.
Yeah, absolutely. I think pre-season expectations, I've said it before on here, that there weren't really any expectations. A new manager coming in and, well, yeah, to be in the top two at the time of recording is pretty incredible. It's testament to the job Rob Edwards did. But yeah, you touched on it, the recent form, the last 4 or 5 games, it has just felt like it's gone a bit stale, which is ridiculous, really, because we're second in the league. And, you know, you're only at the time recording is 5 points above us, and, you know, everything's amazing at Coventry. You know, you couldn't say a bad word about your team or your manager at the moment. But I think, yeah, we have to be realistic and say that to be second now, 15 games in, after the third international break, would have absolutely snapped your hand off. Now, yeah, recently it has been the Rob Edwards saga, Tyler. I want to ask your opinion on that. Do you think he was in the right frame of mind to leave? Do you think that, you know, Boro fans are entitled to be annoyed?
Oh, 100%. It's something I'm never keen on in football, especially when you look at the position that Wolves are in. And I mean, he's got a big job on his hands, and for how well he was doing at Middlesbrough, I mean, he was getting players like Morgan Whittaker, who struggled a lot last season. He's got him firing this year, and I think if he'd stuck with you until, you know, around March, April, May, you'd be looking still at the top 6, I think, very comfortably, if not the top 2. Yeah, I'm not a fan of what he's done there, and it's just sort of probably demotivated your fan base a bit, especially based on the start you've had.
Yeah, I think that'd be a fair assessment. So then it was Adi Vivesh that took charge of that game against Birmingham City and got the 3 points. He rallied the fans. I think that's going to be a really, really good 3 points this season. Looking back from when he was at Cov, is there anything you can tell me about him? Because I actually woke up this morning, looked at social media, and I don't know if it's just Boro fans, but Boro fans saying that, you know, we're already overrating him. And saying that, you know, he's the best number 2 in the league, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure you'd probably say Lampard's number 2 is the best now. But yeah, what can you remember specifically about Adi from Coventry? Is there anything you can say?
Well, it was always known that he was a big presence on the sideline and also behind the scenes in training and stuff. He wasn't afraid to sort of show himself, and it also showed, you know, before Robins actually got the sack, and there was some disagreement between Robins and AD. He got the boot, and then Robins followed not long after. So that shows that there's potentially something there that AD brought to the club that we didn't realise from a fan's perspective. But no, I think that from my experience of seeing him at games, you know, he is very vocal. He's, you know, always very passionate. And I think that's important, especially with the situation you're in where he's had to step up. You know, he has, I think, the qualities of a manager, and this is his time to sort of prove himself a bit and show that.
Lovely. Well, it's reassuring to hear. Hopefully he can get the job done against Oxford, and then the job done against you if he is still interim manager. Right, final thoughts then, Tyler. I want to get your score prediction for the game.
It's difficult. I think this is probably the most difficult one to predict in terms of Cov against Middlesbrough in recent years. But I will say 2-1 to Cov.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I mean, recent head-to-head fixtures, you'd be wrong to not back Coventry. There is AD has installed quite a nice feel-good factor in the last week or so, and so if we get the job done against Oxford this weekend, which I think, I'd like to think we would, then I think we go into the game with a lot of confidence and be like, you know what, this is our time. You know, we can't keep letting Coventry come to our stadium and get a job done over us. So I don't think we'll get 3 points. I don't think we have enough attacking firepower to score more than you. but I'd like to think that defensively we'll be okay and maybe nick a goal. So I'm going to go 1-1. I wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Thomas Asante scored for you, and then we got a late equaliser through someone like Morgan Whittaker, or someone to pop up with the odd goal. Right, brilliant. Tyler, thank you very much for coming on today, mate. Check his socials down in the description, as well as our socials, where you can find our TikTok page, where there'll be more content from this preview where I'll clip them up into shorts for TikTok as well. So if you want to follow on there, then please feel free to do so. It's Boro versus Coventry on Tuesday night. And we'll see who comes out on top. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.